Hello everyone, you're watching sqadia.com, and today our lecture topic is the sense organs, and we are on the first section of our lecture topic, that is the general characteristics of sense organs. In this, we will be discussing the sensory pathway, what are the characteristics of sensations, and what is the cutaneous sensation and the referred pain. Our senses constantly provide us with information about our surroundings. We see, we hear, and we touch. The pain of headache, for example, prompts us to do something about it, such as taking an aspirin or a Panadol. So you remember, if we weren't feeling the headache, what we would be really doing about it? We won't do anything about it. And usually in the patient, for example, in case of diabetics, as they cannot feel any pain, and result is multiple ulcers on the foot, resulting in a diabetic foot. Why? Because they cannot feel any pain of any trauma or anything which have hurt their toes. And result is there's a dirty wound which eventually can be smelled out because there's a such foul smelling, but usually they don't notice it when it actually pricks them or when it hits them, because they cannot sense the pain of that pricker hit they have taken it on their toe. In general, this is the purpose of sensation, to enable the body to respond appropriately to the ever-changing situations and to maintain homeostasis. So, coming to the sensory pathway, what it is and what are the parts of the sensory pathway. The impulses involved in the sensation follow a precise pathway, which all have the following parts. A sensory pathway would have, first of all, a receptor, which is going to detect a change of a stimuli or generate impulses. If, for example, anything falls on my hand, that will be detected by the receptors present on my hand. Could this be hot water or cold water? Then definitely the change which has been detected by the receptor has to be actually taken to the spinal cord, and that has been done by the sensory neurons, which actually transmit impulses from receptors to the central nervous system. Then once they're in the spinal cord, if they're not reflex, or for example, then this they have to be taken to the higher centers as well. From spinal cord, they are taken to the thalamus and the somatosensory cortex by sensory tracts, which could be the spinothalamic tract, which may include the lateral or the anterior spinothalamic tract, or it could be simply the dorsal column. Then there are sensory areas. Most are in the cerebral cortex, and the areas feel and interrupt the situation. For example, if cold water is falling on my hand, that will be interrupted not by the spinal cord but by the sensory cortex, and there will be sensation going towards the somatosensory cortex that okay, there is cold water which is touching my hand at the moment. And this is a classic example of a sensory pathway. As you can appreciate over here, that as you turn on the tap or of a shower, what result is, suppose there's a hot water or cold water which is actually being pouring on your hand over here. Then this change of environment, whether it's a cold or a hot water, usually would result in a temperature change. This will be detected by sensory nerve endings in the skin. They will be carried to the spinal cord by a sensory neuron, which is the second part of this. This usually is the bipolar neuron, which has a cell body in the nodes over here, and then from there onward it is carried out to the sensory pathway to the thalamus, eventually going into the somatosensory cortex. So most likely, if it's with temperature, this would be going to the lateral spinothalamic tract, and then it will be relayed back from then into the thalamus, and thalamus to the somatosensory cortex. So you know that definitely our brain would perceive that okay, cold water is falling on the hand, or we can sense the cold water by this mechanism. That is a little different from the reflex arc. In the reflex arc, things end over here. From there, they go into the internuclear neuron, and then there is a response generated straight away. For example, you touch a hot stove and straight away the hand is pushed back. That is a reflex. But in this case, it's not a reflex, rather it's a sensory pathway. The higher centers are involved. From the first organ is basically the first part is the sensory endings which detect the change, which are the receptors, then the sensory neuron, then the sensory tract, and eventually the somatosensory cortex. These four parts make up the sensory pathway. What are the characteristics of sensation? The sensation seems to come from the area where the receptors were stimulated. The cutaneous receptors for touch or pressure adapt very quickly to continuous stimulus. If there is no change, there is nothing for the receptors to detect. So, if the receptors of the hand was stimulated, our somatosensory cortex will know that the receptors on the hand are being stimulated. So, there is something on the hand which has been happening. Then this is called an after image. This is another property of characteristics of sensations. Sensation remains the conscious even after the stimulus has stopped. We all have been very much familiar when suddenly we go out in a bright light on a sunny afternoon around 12 or 1 p.m. And suddenly for a second or momentarily are we blinded by that light? The reason is despite even we close our eyes, but suddenly we cannot see it properly. The reason is a familiar example is a bright after image after watching a flash bulb go off. The very bright light strongly stimulates the receptors of the retina, which generate many impulses that are perceived as an intense sensation that lasts longer than the actual stimulus. Even after first stimulus, we close our eyes due to the brightness of the light, but still we are unable to see anything because at that time the retina has been continuously stimulated and the cones are being continuously firing and the sensations are going from the optic nerve. Now, what are the cutaneous senses? The dermis of the skin and the subcutaneous tissue contain receptors sensations such as touch, pressure, heat, cold, and pain. The receptors for pain, heat, and cold are free nerve endings, which also respond to an intense stimuli. The receptors for touch and pressure are encapsulated nerve endings, meaning that there is cellular structure around the nerve ending. Now, this is example of a nerve ending. As you can appreciate, this is the epidermis, this is the dermo-epidermal junction, and this is the dermis, and this is the subcutaneous tissue. Our hypodermis would be lying somewhere over here. There's the free nerve ending which are present in the epidermis. Then there's the mesenal corpuscles which are present in the dermo-epidermal junction. These are the free nerve ending which detect temperature, also present at the dermo-epidermal junction. Then there is a touch receptor called the Merkel discs which are encapsulated present in dermo-epidermal junction. Then deep in the buried in the dermis are the Ruffini corpuscles which are pressure senses which are detect pressure changes in our skin. Coming to one of the important phenomena that is called as the rapid pain. Free nerve endings are also found in internal organs. The smooth muscle of small intestine, for example, also contains free nerve endings. It has free nerve endings that are stimulated by excessive stretching and contraction. The result of pain is called as visceral pain. Now remember, once if there is a prick over our hand, that usually results in a pain because the free nerve endings are being stimulated. But viscera are actually do not, even if they are pricked, they cannot sense it. But the stretch actually produces the pain because stretch of the visceral actually produces a stimulation of the free nerve endings. This rapid pain is actually a creation of the brain. Within the spinal cord are sensory tracts that are shared by cutaneous impulses and visceral impulses. As you just studied, there are four parts. There are receptors, there are sensory neurons, and there are sensory tracts. These sensory tracts are going from the spine cord levels to the thalamus and the higher centers of the somatosensory cortex. Now, these sensory tracts of the visceral sensation, which is all bringing in from the viscera, as well as the cutaneous sensation, which is coming from the skin, they are all mixed together in a one single sensory tract. And at this time, usually there is a mixture. At times, because there are so many sensations coming up from the cutaneous areas, if for any reason other sensations are coming from the viscera, the brain interrupts it if they are coming from the skin of that area. So cutaneous impulses are much more frequent and the brain correctly projects the senses to the skin. The brain projects sensation based on a past experience. Cutaneous pain is far more common than the visceral pain. For example, usually we are at any one time, we are moving, we're jumping, we're sitting, standing, all this senses continuously being transmitted by our receptors in the skin. But what if my pancreas starts to get inflamed? Then, or my gallbladder has gallstones or there is a cholangitis element in my body, then there will be problem in my gallbladder. But now the senses will also be coming from the gallbladder as well as the continuous barrage of senses will come from the cutaneous sensation. but brain would interrupt this as if they're still coming from the skin rather than from the gallbladder, because from the gallbladder it's a new sensation, but brain has been used to it of the previous experience that senses are actually sensations are coming from the skin areas. So what would this result in? That I would be feeling pain over in the right hypochondrium over the area of the skin. Although there will be no problem with that area of the skin, but actually that would be the referred pain of the gallbladder towards that area of the skin, and is actually interrupted by the brain as such as if the problem is coming from this area. Now, this is the areas of the rapid pain. The classical example is that usually heart is on the left side of the chest, but when there is an MI, there is an ischemia of the heart, the pain is not only felt on the left side of the chest, there is not only heaviness of the chest, but it is usually felt over the left shoulder. It radiates all over the left arm, especially over the left thumb. Now, the left thumb has no relation with the heart in terms of, we see in terms of anatomy. But actually, all the sensitive sensations which coming from the left arm and left thumb are continuously going in. And once the sensitive sensation of the heart mix up with them, the brain interrupts these new signals as if they're coming from what it's get used to of the past experience, that is from the thumb and the left arm. So that pain is actually referred pain of the heart, which is actually felt as if there is a pain of the left arm and left thumb. As you can appreciate over here, this is diagram showing different areas. You can appreciate the right hypochondrium as well as right intercostal margins. Is the liver involved, small intestine usually in the pubic suprapubic area. Appendicitis, it's usually a referred pain. Mainly it starts in the right iliac fossa, and there's a classical history that is referred over the umbilicus, around the umbilicus. Ureter usually also goes around the thigh as well as on the middle aspect of the thigh. This is kidney pain is usually over here somewhere in the back areas, as you can appreciate over. And then there's the bladder pain sometimes felt under the creases of the buttocks. By this, we have covered the first section. We have covered what is the parts of the sensory pathway, how the sensory pathway is formed, what are the characteristics, what is the projection, and what is the after stimulus. We have discovered what are the receptors in the skin which detect cutaneous senses, and then lastly, what is the referred pain. Thank you very much. Keep watching sqadia.com.